Order. Question number 2, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister.
Order. 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 The House should just settle a little bit. I've called Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister stand by his statement, and I quote, "Just passing everything by the barest of majorities isn't the right way to govern a country," end quote? If so, why?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, yes, in the context it was given. This comment was made when National had a provisional majority to govern alone following the election in September. It referred to the fact that I intend to work with other parties where possible, and I do that.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If the Prime Minister thinks passing legislation with bare majorities is not the right way to govern, how is sending troops to Iraq with no majority the right way to govern?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
I think the member is quite incorrect. Actually, the authority and responsibility for making decisions to deploy Defence Force personnel is one that rests with the Executive. It always has, and that's why Helen Clark chose to send our SAS forces in a combat role to Afghanistan without a parliamentary vote. She didn't actually have the courtesy to tell the country they were going.
Supplementary.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Does the Prime Minister accept that sending troops into a combat zone is part of the functionality of government and is part of governing a country? And if so, how can sending troops to Iraq with no majority be the right way to govern a country?
Speaker.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
The government makes decisions on behalf of the people of New Zealand, and it puts those to a test. I remember in 2011 when the entire election was dominated by the mixed ownership model, despite the fact that we had the single biggest result prior to the 2014 election of a parliamentary party under MMP, despite the fact that the Labor and Greens opposition got an absolute trouncing, the members still didn't want to accept the word of the people. The problem with Russell Norman and the Green Party is they only want to accept the word of the people when it suits their argument. When the people believe in something different to them, all of a sudden they're the idiots. It's a very sad way to treat the people of New Zealand, Mr. Norman.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Well, if the Prime Minister wishes to test this decision he's made to send troops to Iraq against the will of the people as represented by the 120 members in this Parliament, why doesn't he put a motion on the floor of this Parliament and we'll see if he has a majority?
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said so often before, the convention is not that, and that was not the case when Helen Clark made the very numerous decisions that she did. In the end, we test these things every 3 years. But I will say this, Mr. Speaker. I will say this. We all understand the domestic risks from ISIL. We understand those risks, and we understand those risks from New Zealanders. And I just look forward to the political leaders that have spoken in opposition today being the ones that come forward if something goes wrong to those New Zealanders. It'll be very different, boy. You'll be very different.
Order. 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 Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Is it not just a simple truth that the decision that the Prime Minister has made today to send troops to Iraq has actually put New Zealanders at more risk?
Mr. Speaker.
Right, Honourable Prime Minister.
Quite the opposite. A stronger ISIL is one that has more outreach, more resources, more capability to actually inflict pain, torture and kill New Zealanders.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russell Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When he said that sending troops to Iraq was the price we paid for being part of the club, what exactly did he mean?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I meant that New Zealand for a very, very long period of time has worked with other countries to provide support to other countries, because in return New Zealanders get support. There are 62 nations actually who are part of the coalition effort, and we help each other in a variety of different fields in support. That is why governments make these decisions, because they know, in my view, that they're strongest when good nations get together to stand up to bad and evil forces. That's something the member doesn't know because he hasn't been in government, but any party who has knows that.
Supplementary.
Order. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not actually the case that the club he was referring to was the Five Eyes Club? And if that is not the case, then why did he not correct that interpretation, which was widespread throughout the New Zealand media for more than a month, that the club he was actually referring to was the Five Eyes Club, not the 60-odd nations he's now referring to?
Mr. Speaker,
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
That's quite incorrect. Actually, a number of people asked my office, because I was overseas at the time, and my media team made that quite clear what I was talking about. Mr. Speaker, shame the member won't get a chance to talk about those matters because he's persona non grata when it comes to the ISC.
Question number 3, Paul Foster-Bell.